Seconds after takeoff and moments before an Air India flight crashed last month, the fuel was cut off to both engines of the plane, investigators said early on Saturday in a preliminary assessment of information from the aircraft's voice and data recorder. The narrowed focus on the fuel switches on Air India Flight 171 raised questions about the pilot's actions and appeared to rule out mechanical failure or design flaws. The report said there are no recommended actions to the aircraft and engine manufacturers, Boeing and General Electric. In the cockpit voice recording, one of the pilots is heard asking the other, "Why did he cut off the fuel?" said the report, by India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. The other pilot responded that he did not do so. The London-bound Boeing 787 Dreamliner went down on June 12th, about 30 seconds after takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in the western Indian city of Ahmedabad. All but one of the 242 people aboard were killed. The plane rammed into the dining hall of a medical college before exploding in flames. Altogether, more than 270 people were killed, including dozens on the ground, officials said. It was India's worst aviation disaster since 1996. The supply of fuel to the engine is controlled by two switches in the flight deck. Starting about 10 seconds after the fuel was cut off on Flight 171, the data recorder shows the switches were moved to turn the fuel back on. But the plane could not gain power quickly enough to stop its descent. Each switch is equipped with a locking mechanism that is supposed to prevent accidental movement, experts said. To turn the fuel supply on, the switch must be pulled outward and then moved to a run position, where it is released and settles back into a locked position. To turn the fuel supply off, the switch must be pulled outward again, moved to the cutoff position, and then released again. According to the report, the fuel control switches were turned off one after another, about a second apart, and the aircraft started to lose altitude before crossing the airport perimeter wall. Safety experts said it appeared unlikely that the switches were moved without human involvement, whether intentional or accidental. The fuel switches have safeguards built around them to avoid any accidental switching off, said Sean Prichnicki, a former airline accident investigator and aviation expert at Ohio State University. For example, on the 787 and probably more airliners these days, the switches themselves, you can't shut them off without actually lifting them up, he said. So there's a little mechanical gate built into the switch. You have to lift it up over this little gate, so you can't just bump it. The flight's captain was Sumit Sabharwal, who had over 15,000 hours of flying experience, and First Officer Clive Kunder brought 3,400 hours of flying experience, Air India said. That is more experience than officials attributed to the pilots last month, when they estimated a combined experience of about 10,000 hours. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, and Boeing have been trying to determine what caused Flight 171 to crash. The cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, usually referred to as the black boxes, were recovered from the debris. While there was initial concern that the devices might have been damaged in the extreme heat of the fire, investigating teams have downloaded information contained in the boxes for study. Video filmed by residents in nearby homes, as well as CCTV footage, show the plane struggling to gain lift immediately after taking off. A New York Times analysis of photos and videos suggested that the plane might have experienced a catastrophic loss of hydraulic, electrical, or engine power. It could take months, possibly years, to reach definitive conclusions. But as a signatory of the International Civil Aviation Organization, India was obliged to submit a preliminary investigative report within 30 days of the crash. In a statement on social media, Air India said it had received the preliminary report, but could not comment on specific details mentioned, given the active nature of the investigation. It said it stood in solidarity with the families and those affected by the crash. The crash brought scrutiny not only to Boeing, but also to Air India, the country's oldest carrier, which was acquired by Tata Group after half a century as a state-owned enterprise. The crash occurred just as Air India was trying to pitch itself as a modernizing carrier. The airline's last major crash was in 2020, when a passenger plane operated by Air India Express, a subsidiary, skidded and cracked in two on a rain-soaked runway, killing at least 17 people in the southern Indian state of Kerala. In 2010, an Air India Express plane overshot a hilltop runway in Mangalore, in the western state of Karnataka, killing more than 150 people.